Okay, this has 3 parts. First of all, we're going to talk about the district's acceptable use policy, which basically outlines how we can use their computers and what will get us in trouble. Second part is copyright law. Even though I'm not a lawyer, I've read a bunch about it, and basically we're just going to get the nuts and bolts, the basics of how copyright law works. And the very last part is information privacy. Before we can talk about computer ethics, we need to talk about specifically what are ethics. Okay, if we take the computer out of it and just go with ethics, what are ethics? What does that mean? Something you're good at? Ethics are your own idea or your sense of what's right or wrong. Okay, and everybody's got their own set of ethics. Mine are probably different than yours. Yours are more than likely different than your parents' set of ethics. Your set of ethics, your idea of what's right and wrong, is probably different than your boss's set of ethics if you work. Ethics are very individual. Here's an example. Some people believe that smoking is wrong. They would never do it because they think it's wrong. Some people, however, enjoy smoking. They don't think it's wrong. They think it's fine. It's perfectly legal if you're old enough. Okay, that's where people's ideas of what's right and wrong can be completely different. In fact, they can be completely the opposite. So, according to the Webster Dictionary, ethics are the principles of conduct governing an individual or a group. Now, so far we've only talked about individual ethics, your personal ethic or my personal ethic. But Webster's Dictionary says that there are groups that have ethics. So what kind of groups do we belong to? Well, we're a group right here in this class. Other kinds of groups that you might find yourself a part of. Okay, a family group. There's a good chance that when you're at home, your parents require you to act differently than if you were out hanging with your friends. So we take this idea of ethics, idea of right and wrong that we use to govern our own behavior, and we apply them to computers, and we've got computer ethics. So computer ethics, the same kind of deal. Those are the rules that define right and wrong when using a computer. Now, when you're talking about computers or even group ethic in general, the ethics are usually defined by whoever owns the computer or whoever's in charge of the group. Okay, when you're at home because your parents pay the rent or have bought the house, they believe that everybody that's in that house should follow their personal ethic. I know my parents did. In the Jordan School District, because all of these computers, I'm talking about computer ethics, all the computers are owned by the district. So they do believe that they have the right to tell us what we can or can't do on the computers. When I communicated my rules and this group ethic to you on the disclosure, we called it a disclosure. This is the same thing. The district calls it an acceptable use policy. But it's the same kind of document, except theirs is written by a lawyer. They're pretty serious about their acceptable use policy. Mine was written by me. And I'm still fairly serious about it, but not quite as serious as they are. A lot of times businesses and government agencies have acceptable use policies too. You'll see them other places. Any kind of medium-sized to large-sized business will have one. I know that in the Jordan School District, if you are employed by the Jordan School District and you ignore the rules on their acceptable use policy and do inappropriate things on their computer, they will fire you. Okay, they're really serious about it. They don't want people around that can't handle this kind of stuff. And if what you did on the computer is really bad, they'll have you talking to the police. Every student and every employee signs one every year. It's actually part of your registration package. You can't get into school without signing it. The same rules apply to students and teachers and administrators. It's the same policy, but how many of you have ever read it? have any idea what it says, because you've all signed it. I signed it. I find it interesting that they give everybody a signature page and everybody just signs it and they say, oh, that says you're going to use the computers appropriately. But they have no idea what that means. This is what it says. That's what we're going to go over right now. The acceptable uses of Jordan School District computers are fairly limited. The first one is you are allowed, or it is acceptable, to use the internet and computer resources in an appropriate manner. Anything that's formally published, because publishing information is an acceptable use, but anything that is formally published must follow the district guidelines, which basically say use correct grammar, correct spelling, and the last acceptable use is to use the computer and abide by acceptable rules of etiquette. So being polite and don't be abusive and to use appropriate language. Okay, unacceptable uses. This is stuff that could get you in trouble. First unacceptable use is you may not send or receive any illegal material. And for a school and a school district, illegal material means anything that's pornographic or explicit. Any weapons-related material, anything that's drug or alcohol-related, any content that contains any kind of threats or is hateful or racial or just basically ethically objectionable. So if it's rude, crude, mean, you're probably going to get busted for that. They don't like that at all. And of course, down the bottom here, may not participate in any computer activity that's actually illegal in the state of Utah or the United States. More unacceptable uses. You may not disrupt the use of computers for other users. Anything you do, if it slows the person next to you down or prevents them from using the computers, that's bad. May not use the computers or network products or network for product advertising or political lobbying. This is not a big one for students. It is, however, a big one for teachers. There's a reason for that. You cannot use tax dollars to promote politics. That's actually illegal. It's been illegal forever. These computers were purchased with tax dollars, so the same rule applies. Around voting time, teachers get busted for this every year. If you want to do that kind of stuff, do it at home. And this one's really big for everybody, students and teachers alike. Do not put personal information on the computer system here. The district does not have the money. They don't spend money on that. They don't spend anywhere near as much as they should on protecting information on the network, which makes school computers prime targets for hackers and identity thieves. So if you need to check your bank account, wait till you get home. More unacceptable uses. May not intentionally harm data, software, or hardware, which includes creation or introduction of computer viruses. Viruses are an interesting thing, I think, because most people don't understand them. Everybody knows about a computer virus. They know that you don't want one. But what are they? Where do they come from? If you were to track a virus all the way back to its very beginning, how was it born? Viruses just fly through the air and land on the keyboard? Somebody put it there. In fact, it's even more than that, because a virus is nothing but a program. It's a computer program just like your favorite video game. But your video game is designed to entertain you. What's a virus designed to do? Destroy something, damage the computer. So it's actually a program that's programmed or designed to damage computers. The other thing it's designed to do is be very, very secretive. You don't know you've got it. It copies itself to all of the people in your address book, and you don't even know it happened. Viruses are designed to damage things and to reproduce themselves in secret. But every virus that's ever been seen on any computer in the world, somebody sat down at their computer and made it on purpose. So why do they do it? Well, why does somebody vandalize a public bathroom? It's the same mentality as somebody who just wants to destroy things. Same deal. Sometimes viruses are written for, money or revenge or whatever it is. The next two, any kind of hacking, whether it's restricted systems outside of the district or trying to access restricted systems inside the district. Okay, any kind of hacking is a bad idea. Trust me, you'll get caught. They'll find out. It's not secret. The district has a whole bunch of computers and a whole bunch of computer nerds that do nothing but monitor this system. They check everything. The computer filters it. Anything it finds that's inappropriate, it sends that to the computer nerds, who then check it out every single time. They look right at it. If it's a big problem, the guy stands up from his desk and goes to the school where it happened, which means he'd come and talk to me if it happened here. By the time the guy stands up from his desk, he'll have all the evidence he needs. He'll know what happened, he'll know where it came from, who did it, what time of day, he'll know everything before he even gets up from his desk. I've seen the printouts. They're completely thorough. So what can happen? Well, if it's something that's not too bad, you can lose your computer privileges temporarily. And that would be something that happens here in class that's kind of up to me. If it's something worse, you could lose your computer privileges permanently. I've seen this happen. Students go through high school not allowed to use any of the district computers anymore because they screwed up so bad. You can get suspended. I've seen that happen, especially if your inappropriate use has anything to do with harassment, especially sexual harassment. I've seen students get expelled from a school because of what they did on the computer. And I have seen students end up talking to the police over it. That's happened more than once. Copyright law. The copyright is legal protection given to creators of intellectual works. Now, what's an intellectual work? Here's my example I've been using all day. If I invent a new type of skateboard, do I copyright my new skateboard? That's right. A skateboard would be patented because it's an actual invention, it's an actual thing. Copyright covers ideas. It protects ideas. What they call intellectual works or intellectual property. So here's an example so you know what that is. Okay, if I am a band, if I have a band and we make a CD, does my band own the copyright for CDs? Now see, that's kind of a loaded question because CDs wouldn't be copyrighted, would they? No, CDs were patented years ago. So if my band doesn't actually copyright the CD, it copyrights the songs on the CD. Songs are ideas. They're pretty much intangible. You can't sit on them. You can't drive them around. You can't skateboard on them. Copyrights are legally attached to whatever you create as soon as you create it. So if you write an original essay, it is immediately copyrighted. It is protected. That's your property. Those are your ideas. So that means that the next day somebody can't take your essay and turn it in for credit, claiming that it's their own. That would be illegal. The owner of the work, like if you wrote your essay and then you decided to post it on the wall so everybody could see it and everybody could have your own same ideas, the owner of the work has the right to do that. You can define what happens with your stuff. This is the way you got to think of it. Because when you buy a CD, how much does a blank CD cost? Like 20 cents. If you buy a Led Zeppelin CD, does that mean you actually own Stairway to Heaven? Is that now your song? No, I don't think so. So what are you actually paying for? Because you don't own the song, and the CD only costs 20 cents. So why does the Led Zeppelin CD cost between $10 and $20? What are you paying for? You're paying for the right to use or listen to one copy of that music, to listen to a copy. When you buy anything, music, software, books, whatever, you don't actually own the book. The author owns the book. But you're paying for the right to use a copy of it. That's it. Each copy you want to use, you're expected to pay for. So like in this classroom here, I have 24 computers, and all of them need to use Microsoft Word for a word processor. I actually had to buy a copy for every single computer in here. It was expensive, but that's the way it works. Some copyright special circumstances. There's a whole set of rules for education called the Educational Fair Use Policy. What the Educational Fair Use Policy means, or the way it works, is that you can pretty much borrow anything you want if it's for educational purposes. But there's a couple things you got to do. First thing you got to do is give credit to where you got it from, who you borrowed it from. That's what a bibliography is for, or a reference page. You can only borrow pieces. You can't borrow an entire essay and turn it in for credit. That would be bad. But you can borrow pieces of somebody's essay to help support your own ideas. Especially for computer stuff. If we go online and borrow pictures and sound bites for like a PowerPoint, the law expects that the project is just deleted when we're done with it. When we've got our grades and we've learned what we're going to learn, the project just needs to disappear. Another special circumstance, public domain. This is exactly what Ray Tomlinson did. He made email public domain. That means Ray Tomlinson doesn't own it anymore. Everybody owns it. Which means it's totally uncopyrighted. You can do whatever you want with it because you own it. Everybody owns it. That's why you see all different kinds of email programs out there now. And none of them are written by Ray Tomlinson. Copyrights do run out. They're only good for 95 years, by the way. These are computer specific, and I guarantee you'll see all these on the quiz and on tests. Freeware is software that is copyrighted, which means you can't mess with it, but it doesn't cost anything. It's free. So whoever originally programmed it wants credit for it, and they want it to stay the same, but they don't want any money from it. It's just free. Shareware is like trial version stuff. You buy a computer, it comes with McAfee's 60-day free trial. You use it for 60 days. If you want to use it for longer than that, you're expected to pay for it. And open source is pretty rare. You can find it some places. Open source is software that's not covered by copyright, so you can change it if you want to, if you know how to do that. But it's not free either. They're expensive. You can buy it, you can sell it. The only rule here is that if you're allowed to change the programming code, so is everybody else. You can't lock it up. It has to be open source code so everybody else can change it too. Part 3 of this is information exchange ethics. This is the right and wrong of how you deal with information. The first thing to know is that a lot of information is very personal and private. The information age and the internet has made information so available that these days they really have to rely on the individual user to decide where they should be and where they shouldn't be. Our right to privacy is actually protected by the 4th Amendment in the Constitution. That's the whole search and seizure law. Legally, private information is owned by the person that it's about. Private information is stuff like your grades, in fact, any kind of educational record, which would mean your schedule, or your classes, or your assignments, are actually owned by the person they're about. Medical records, same deal. Nobody else has the right to those but you. Social security number, bank account numbers, those kinds of things. Okay, your address and your phone number, however, are public information. That's a different kind of information. They're not protected. They're in the phone book. Most people can look that up if they take the initiative. People under the age of 18 don't actually own their information. Their parents do. That's what being a parent/guardian is all about. Private information is protected by law. The whole Fourth Amendment thing protects it for everybody. The computer age has also brought about a huge nationwide surge in informational harassment. These are all pretty computer specific. 4 vocab words. You know what they mean. Top one, spamming or spam. What is spam? The term spam refers to the messages you get in your email that you don't want and you didn't ask for. Computers have made it possible for a company, usually not a legitimate company, but for a company to spend 10 minutes creating a lame email, but then they have the ability to, for free, send it to 10,000 people at the same time. That's spamming. Flaming, publicly posting information that's designed to embarrass or harass other people. This they call cyberbullying, and it does happen every single day. Trolling's kind of the same, except those are public postings designed to provoke inappropriate responses. So you tease somebody and tease somebody and tease somebody, and then they crack, can't take it anymore. Well, whose fault is that? The last one, phishing. Phishing is tricking people into giving up their personal information. Okay, this happens a lot in email. In the email, a lot of times you'll get a message that says it comes from the eBay corporation. And they'll have a little eBay logo on it, which makes it look official, I guess. And it'll say something like, your eBay account has been hacked. It's in trouble, but we can fix it for you. Click on this link and put in your name, your social security number, any credit card number that you've used on eBay in the past, so we can trace those, and we'll take care of it for you. I'm pretty sure everybody's seen something like that. They come from eBay, they come from these fake banks. They're trying to trick you into giving up your personal, your sensitive information. Go to that link, put in your credit cards, and the next day you have no money. Because they will take it all. That's what they're doing. They're trying to steal your identity. Plagiarism, which has part to do with copyright and part to do with informational ethics. Plagiarism is the willful act of presenting another person's work as your own. So you borrow somebody else's work and you turn it in for credit at school. That's plagiarism. Anytime you are copying and pasting anything off of the internet into something you're going to turn in for credit, you're running the risk. Plagiarism is considered a type of fraud and it is illegal. At high school, if you get caught plagiarizing, or cheating they call it, what usually happens? You get a 0 on the test or 0 on the assignment, or maybe at Valley you'd get kicked out of class for the quarter. At regular high school you probably wouldn't get kicked out of the class for the quarter. You guys need to know that this is the last time in your life people will take that so lightly. Literally. If you are at a college or a university and you get caught plagiarizing or cheating, they run a full investigation. They figure out whether you did intend to plagiarize or not. And if they make their case that you did intend to plagiarize and you did cheat, they will expel you from the university permanently. And they will not give you a refund. And college can cost thousands of dollars per semester. And you're just out. Plagiarism, however, is easy to avoid. You see in the newspaper all the time where they say, or where they borrow information, but what they always do is they always cite their source. This is the way to avoid plagiarism, because a lot of times in academic writing at school, they expect you to borrow stuff. I mean, you're not writing an article off the top of your head, you're going out and you're interviewing people. And what they said is copyrighted to them. Remember, copyright is instant. It is attached to your thoughts as soon as you make them known or make them available to other people. So anyways, if I'm writing a story, and in my story, my newspaper story, I'm talking about the Oreo cookie, and I say something like, the Oreo cookie is America's favorite cookie. Now, for a long time, that was Oreo's slogan. So in order for me to say that, I have to say where I got it from. And usually in the newspaper, you'll see that right after the information. So it'll say, the Oreo cookie is America's favorite cookie, according to, or says, John Smith, CEO of Nabisco Foods. That's the first part. In academic writing, then, there's a second part. At the end of your paper or your essay, you would put in what they call a full citation, or sometimes they call it a references page, or sometimes they call it a bibliography. It's the same thing, where you would include all of the pieces of writing that you got your information out of. If you came out of a magazine or a book or another newspaper or anything like that, your bibliography would include the author, the title, publisher, publication year, that kind of stuff. The last part of citing your source and avoiding plagiarism is to always use other people's information the way it was intended. You cannot put words in people's mouths. And so that I'm not going to get in trouble, there's all of my sources. This is where I got all the stuff for this whole PowerPoint from.